Hello guys and girls! So it's been a while since I made a video, but this topic has piqued my interest. Rarely has a game split the gaming community in the last few years like this one. Some hate it, some love it, to death even. But why is that the case? Is it really such a controversial game? Or was it maybe not the game that people expected it to be? So let's take a look at the good, the bad and the ugly of No Man's Sky. For those who have not heard of this game until now, in No Man's Sky you play as a spacefaring explorer who flies around the galaxy to discover new planets, scan the various life forms on said planet and mine for resources. You can upgrade your spacesuit and your ship to increase your survivability and explore even more strange and sometimes hostile planets, or pursue your main quest, so to speak, reaching the center of the universe. So what is No Man's Sky doing right? For one, it certainly is a massive universe. Over 18.6 quintillion planets. That's a huge amount, and we will never find them all, I suppose. I played about 60 hours so far, and I haven't seen one planet that was discovered by another human being. The exploration aspect of the game is its prime selling point. The planets I have encountered have reached from tropical paradise worlds to barren wastelands ravaged by nuclear storms. And then there are the plants and animals that can exist on these planets. They can reach from Earth-like creatures to weird alien monstrosities. I have seen strange jellyfish creatures on land and huge snake-like beasts flying in the sky. And what is the coolest thing about all? You can name these things if you discover them first. Yay! Now the problem is that the other aspects of the game pale in comparison and most of the time are a mere chore. Mining is a bit a tedious task, and at some point you might not even care anymore, because you already have all the upgrades you want. Then you'll only mine the fuel resources and let anything else be. And even this is not really something interesting. You do not have to search for these resources. Plutonium crystals are littered across almost every planet's surface, and Thorium-9 asteroids are found every few meters around the planet's atmosphere. This makes a rather important task, aka resource management, nothing more than a few clicks every half an hour. You don't have to worry about it at all. For example, without your pulse engine, it might take 2 to 3 hours to reach a planet, but since the space is littered with asteroids, there is no way you'll ever run out of fuel. So why put the mechanic in the game in the first place? I know it's more realistic, but it's not engaging at all. Next up on the list, space battles. Every so often, pirates will warp into the system you are in and attack you. Sometimes they also attack some trader's ship and you can choose to help. That's cool and all, but the battles themselves are not interesting. I've so far met only one kind of enemy ship, which is a small fighter of some description. I have heard there can also be bigger ships, but so far I haven't found any. Also, your weapon selection is not too impressive. Rapid firing plasma cannons and phase beams. That's all. The battles get repetitive very quickly. Also, the flying feels weird, even more so on planets. It seems your ship comes with a security software that prevents you from ever crashing into a piece of terrain. It also prevents you from flying too low or too close to the ground. It makes it really strange and makes the precise navigation almost impossible. Speaking of repetitiveness, as random as the planets are, the actual encounters on the planet, aka buildings, ruins, etc., are not that much in variety. After a few hours, you'll have seen all kinds of buildings and ruins that there are. The encounters with one of the 3 alien races will begin to repeat themselves as well after a short while. The randomness of the planets, which technically speaking is one of the game's strong points, can also be a negative. A friend of mine told me that his first 5 or 6 planets were all barren wastelands, with just a few or no creatures on it at all. The universe can be quite diverse, or it can be boring and repetitive if you are unlucky, it seems. And now we can come to the technical aspect. This game has, or had, some serious technical problems on PC, especially on launch day. I myself could not launch the game and had to tweak some options in a config file. And if you took a look into the Steam forums on that day, you would have seen thousands of people having the same or different problems. Even now the games sometimes crash at random, which is quite infuriating. The graphics are okay, but there are a lot of ugly things. Buildings getting rendered very late, creatures suddenly appearing when you're close enough, especially the small ones, and some weird effect on the terrain when you descend on a planet. It looks really weird and it shouldn't be there. It definitely feels as if the game was made primarily for consoles, since some of the important graphic options like render distance are completely missing. Also, the menu navigation is tedious on PC. Now let's discuss the ugly, or the reason why this game seems to be so controversial. I think one of the reasons might be that the hype that was generated for this game was way too big. The hype train just ran wild and now, on release, it derailed with a massive bang. But how could such a hype even begin? One of the main reasons was probably the developers' way of shrouding their game in mystery and leaving a lot up to imagination. They rarely denied anything when it came to these wild rumors, and therefore people began to dream up the wildest things. The gaming press didn't help either. Reports of No Man's Sky being perhaps one of, if not the, most hyped indie titles in the history of gaming, or a huge challenge to the video game industry's status quo, gave the hype train even more speed. From a business standpoint, I can understand that devs didn't try to stop this hype train. I mean, if you look at the pre-orders and sold units, it clearly worked out for them. But from a gamer's standpoint, that hope that this game would be the thing they dreamed and fantasized about, well, their hope got shattered, and this is the reason why so many people are angry with this game, I think. Some expected a space sim like the X series. Some wanted more space combat or a greater focus on survival. And some people hoped to play this game with their friends or even meeting other players in their travel. Which turned out to be false, even though the devs had hinted at this. Speaking of this, there are actually a lot of features completely missing from the game that were promised or hinted at. There is a list on Reddit you can check out if you're interested. Links are below. In the end, this game is just an exploration game. Not the best, but a huge one. It's a technical achievement for sure, but the actual gameplay, not that good, I have to say. Well, the only thing we can do now is learn from this. My advice, don't get on a hype train, especially if the developers are so extremely vague. And if the game media starts to hype the game as well, even without good evidence or reason, you should start to ask questions. I myself enjoy the game quite a bit, but I never accepted it to be more than a huge exploration game. It feels exactly this niche for me and nothing more. I said it to my friends, and I'll say it here. I could not recommend this game for anyone unless you're really into exploring planets. I have been Shadow, and I hope you liked this video. See you soon.